Fog crept in like a damp shroud over Malifaux City, veiling its gothic spires and steam-powered machinery. In the heart of the Guild District, a lone enforcer stood watch outside the breach gateway. Ensign Thaddeus Gray wore a crisp uniform with brass buttons, his eyes fixed on the swirling vortex beyond the wardings. A messenger from Arcanist headquarters burst onto the scene, her long coat flapping behind. "Gray, we need your help." Thaddeus nodded curtly. "What's the situation?" "Pyromancer Karis is trying to stabilize the breach," she said, not slowing for breath. "She needs backup. Now." The never-born Nephilim, Gideon, emerged from the fog like a spectre, his ethereal form flickering with malevolent energy. Thaddeus instinctively reached for his pepperbox pistol. "Easy, Ensign," Karis said, appearing at his side. "Gideon's on our side for now." 13 hours remained before the breach ripped apart reality completely, unleashing unnameable horrors upon Malifaux City. Karis, Thaddeus, and Gideon formed a fragile alliance to salvage what they could of their fractured world. "All right," Karis said, her eyes blazing with etheric fire. "We'll need the Arcanist lab to analyze the breach's resonance. But we'll have to move fast." A figure materialized behind them, his features blurred like wax in a furnace. "You think you can stop this?" he growled. Thaddeus turned to face Seamus the grave robber, resurrectionist at large. "Seamus, what are you doing here?" "The reckoning draws near," Seamus hissed, "and I aim to survive it." Karis' eyes narrowed. "We can't let you," Gideon interrupted, his voice a whisper from beyond the grave. "Time's short, mortals. We have 12 hours. Thaddeus gritted his teeth. 12 hours to save Malifaux City from certain doom. The three unlikely allies set off into the fog-shrouded night, racing against time and the unforgiving forces that sought to shatter reality itself. The trio converged on the Arcanist lab, a dilapidated mansion in the heart of the city's slums. Flickering gas lamps cast eerie shadows on the walls as Karis led them through winding corridors. "Be quick," she warned, ushering them into a cramped laboratory filled with strange equipment and discarded experiments. Seamus sniffed around the room, his resurrectionist senses twitching at the scent of decay and rebirth. "What's the plan?" "We need to analyze the breach's resonance," Karis said, her eyes fixed on a complex device in the center of the room. "If we can stabilize it, perhaps we can." Gideon interrupted, his voice laced with disdain. "Stabilize what?" "The fabric of reality is unraveling, and you talk about stabilizing." Thaddeus shifted uncomfortably. "We have to try something." Karis nodded, her hands moving with etheric precision as she set up the device. "I'll try to synchronize our resonance with the breaches, but I need." A faint hum began to emanate from the machine, and the air around them seemed to vibrate with eldritch energy. "Too late," Karis whispered, her eyes locked on Seamus as the resurrectionist's body began to contort, his limbs twisting into impossible shapes. "It's infecting him." Thaddeus approached cautiously, trying not to trigger any more of Seamus' twisted movements. "We have to get out of here, Karis." Gideon watched with a detached interest, his Nephilim form flickering with otherworldly energy. "Time's wasting," he said, his voice dripping with an unsettling familiarity. "The breach will consume everything." Karis activated the device, and a wave of resonance washed over them, imbuing the air with a raw, unnatural power. As they fled the laboratory, Thaddeus caught glimpses of Seamus' contorted form, his body now a grotesque amalgamation of flesh and machinery, the very fabric of reality twisted to accommodate his resurrectionist powers. "Karis," he said, trying to keep up with her frantic pace. "What just happened?" "We've got 12 hours left," Karis replied, not slowing, "and I fear we're running out of time." The city blurred around them as they sped through the fog-shrouded streets, Karis' knowledge of the labyrinthine alleys guiding them toward their final destination. Thaddeus glanced back at Seamus, his mind reeling from the resurrectionist's twisted form. "What have we done?" Gideon's form flickered in response. "You've given him a taste of the reckoning." Karis pushed open a rickety gate hidden behind a dilapidated shanty. "We're running out of time, Thaddeus." Beyond the gate lay the bayou, its twisted mangroves and carnivorous vines like grasping fingers reaching for the city's crumbling spires. "Welcome to my home," Gideon said, his voice dripping with an unholy pleasure. They navigated through winding waterways, dodging snapping alligators and voodoo traps set by the bayou's treacherous denizens. Thaddeus clung to Karis' arm, his nerves fraying as they delved deeper into the twisted heart of Malifaux City's underbelly. As they reached the bayou's darkest depths, a figure emerged from the shadows, Brewmaster, his hat askew and his eyes blazing with an unholy energy. "Well met, mortals," he boomed, his laughter like a crackling flame. "I see you're after something, or someone." Gideon drifted closer, his presence like a cold breeze on a winter's night. "We need to stop the breach." Brewmaster's grin faltered, and for an instant, Thaddeus glimpsed the horrors that lurked beneath his benevolent facade. "Ah, you're talking about the Great Devourer." Karis stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "We need your help, Brewmaster." The bayou's master smiled once more, his eyes glinting with an unholy light. "I can give you what you want," he said, "but first I'll have to show you my true self." As the air around them began to distort and writhe like living flesh, Thaddeus knew they stood at the threshold of something ancient, a secret hidden beneath Malifaux City's crumbling spires. The bayou's master, Brewmaster, led them to a hidden clearing deep within the twisted mangroves. Vines and creepers wrapped around ancient trees like skeletal fingers, their branches creaking ominously in the wind. As they stepped into the clearing, Thaddeus felt the air thicken with an otherworldly presence. Gideon's form flickered, his eyes fixed on Brewmaster with a mixture of fascination and dread. Karis drew her revolver, her hand steady as she took aim at the bayou's master. "I don't trust you," she said, her voice firm. Brewmaster chuckled, his laughter like a crackling flame. "And yet, you're willing to risk everything on my help." With a wave of his hand, the vines and creepers around them began to writhe and twist, forming a living barricade that seemed to pulse with an eldritch energy. Thaddeus swallowed hard as Brewmaster stepped forward, his eyes blazing with an unholy light. "Behold," he said, his voice dripping with reverence, "the Great Devourer." Beyond the veil of reality, Thaddeus glimpsed a horror beyond comprehension, a being that defied the laws of geometry and sanity, its very presence warping the fabric of space-time. Gideon's form flickered with excitement as he reached out to touch the twisted, pulsing mass. "Ah, yes," Brewmaster whispered. "The Devourer's power is the key to stabilizing the breach." Karis' aim wavered as she stared at the horror before them. "We can't trust him," Thaddeus said, his voice barely above a whisper. Gideon's eyes snapped back to focus, his gaze locking onto Brewmaster with an unnerving intensity. "No," he whispered. "We must." As one, they stepped forward, embracing the horrors that lurked beyond the threshold of reality. Thaddeus felt his mind reeling as he stepped into the clearing, the Great Devourer's presence consuming him whole. Gideon's form flickered with excitement, his eyes locked onto the twisted mass as if mesmerized. Karis' revolver wavered in her hand, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can't trust him." Brewmaster chuckled, his laughter like a crackling flame. "Trust is overrated. Results are all that matter." As they approached the Devourer, its presence grew more intense, warping reality with every step. Thaddeus felt his perception of time and space distort, as if he was being consumed by an eldritch hunger. Gideon's form began to change, his Nephilim body twisting and contorting in ways that defied human comprehension. The Devourer's power coursed through him like a dark, pulsing energy. Kara's aim snapped back into focus, her revolver blazing with fiery wrath. No, but it was too late. Gideon's form had merged with the Devourer, becoming one with its twisted, pulsing mass. Thaddeus stumbled backward, his mind reeling from the horrors he'd witnessed. The Bai's master smiled, his eyes gleaming with an unholy light. "The great Devourer will now devour the breach," he said, his voice dripping with reverence. As one, they stepped forward, embracing the eldritch power that had consumed Gideon whole. Thaddeus felt his mind shattered by the sheer horror of it all. The world around him dissolved into chaos, reality unraveling like a thread pulled from a tapestry. The breach's hunger grew more intense, its presence warping space-time with every passing moment. The world around Thaddeus dissolved into chaos, reality unraveling like a thread pulled from a tapestry. He felt his mind shattered by the sheer horror of it all. The breach's hunger grew more intense, its presence warping space-time with every passing moment. Thaddeus stumbled through the twisted landscape, desperate to find some semblance of hope. Kara's voice echoed in his mind, her words a distant memory from a lifetime ago. "We can't trust him." Thaddeus turned to face Brewmaster, his eyes blazing with an unholy light. "You've consumed Gideon's soul," Thaddeus said, his voice barely above a whisper. Brewmaster chuckled, his laughter like a crackling flame. "The great Devourer has claimed its own." As one, they stepped forward, embracing the eldritch power that had consumed Gideon whole. The world around them dissolved into chaos, reality unraveling like a thread pulled from a tapestry. Thaddeus felt himself becoming one with the breach, his mind shattered by the sheer horror of it all. He was no longer human, no longer mortal. He was a vessel for the Devourer's power, a pawn in a game of cosmic horror beyond comprehension. The reckoning had begun, and Thaddeus was at its center. Epilogue: the world was reborn from the ashes of the old once, its landscape twisted and distorted by the eldritch power that had consumed it whole. The breach remained, a wound in reality that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Thaddeus, now a vessel for the Devourer's power, walked among the ruins, his mind shattered by the horrors he'd witnessed. He was no longer human, no longer mortal. He was a monster, a creature of the breach. And as he walked, the world around him began to change, reality unfolding like a twisted, eldritch flower. The reckoning had begun, and Thaddeus was at its center, forever bound to the Devourer's power.